Alright, hello everybody, it is I, Granarite. Here we are with a new Assassin's Creed, Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry, the standalone DLC for Assassin's Creed Black Flag. So we are going to be hopping into a new game here, and we'll see what this has to offer. I've never played this before, so this is going to be a new experience for all of us. In fact, we're getting close to the point where everything's going to be a new experience. Looks like it's still the Jackdaw. Alright, so just looking here, we need to attack the Templar fleet. So Adewale embarks on what he believes will be a typical assassination mission on behalf of the Brotherhood. We need to disable the Templar fleet and destroy the support ships, 3 of them. Optional objectives: use the Templar Admiral's ship, locate the Templar Admiral's ship using the spyglass, and use the mortar to surprise the enemy fleet, whatever that means. We have a resistance tab here. Just a second. Liberated slaves and upgrades. We can see that we get different upgrades based on liberated slaves. Looks like 400 is what we need to get up to. Progress tracker here. Adewale upgrades. We have a blunderbuss. A blunderbuss is a short firearm with a large caliber barrel. It is flared at the muzzle and is only effective at short range. The word blunderbuss comes from the Dutch word dunderbuss, translating to thunderpipe. As it's served a similar role, some consider this weapon to be an early form of what we now know as the shotgun. The machete, a large knife, can be used either as a tool or a weapon, and the blade can vary in length. Machetes were frequently used to cut through undergrowth, trim vegetation, harvest sugarcane, and cut open fruit. They were convenient as a weapon because they were used so frequently, making them easily attainable on plantations. And pouches. Inventory here, we have some ammunition. Looks like we got rope darts, smoke bombs, berserk darts, sleep darts, heavy shot, fire barrels, and mortar shot. Database here. We have Saint Domingue. Originally known as the hunting ground for the Taino and Carib peoples, this island of Hispaniola was first colonized by Christopher Columbus in 1492 in the name of Spain. In 1501, the colony began importing African slaves. Just a second here. Nose is running just a bit. The early 17th century brought French pirates seeking to establish their own secret bases on the abandoned northern and western coasts of the island. In 1665, French colonization was officially recognized by King Louis XIV, renaming their colony Saint Domingue. And in 1697, under the Treaty of Ryswick, Spain was forced to hand over the rights of the island to France. A slave-based society was constructed around the production of sugarcane to satisfy European demands for sugar. The island was nicknamed the Pearl of the Antilles. It became the wealthiest colony in the West Indies. Note, we could use the weather to manipulate the ambiance: tropical storms, torrential rainfall, high winds, hurricanes, and large waves. That's Melanie LeMay, we know from the last game. Yes, because people didn't already have enough problems, let's throw the weather at them too. Realism. People, characters. We have Adewale. Born to enslaved Ogani parents in Yoruba, Adewale was sold to the owner of a prosperous plantation before his teens. He remained on his plantation working the fields until his mid-teens, always scheming of ways to escape his predicament, but uneasy with the prospect of living as a fugitive. Then fortune struck, giving Adewale the sign he needed. At some point near his 16th birthday, a group of buccaneers raided the plantation, robbing it of raw cane, refined sugar, and as many reals as they could find. Seeing this as an opportunity, Ade grabbed a crate of sugar and hauled it aboard one of the longboats the buccaneers had rowed ashore, but not before killing his master. Surprised to see a slave among them, the buccaneers were nevertheless thankful for the aid and welcomed Ade among them. Ade sailed with the first group of men for many years, quickly learning the ways of the seamen, grateful for the chance to develop his own skills and chase his own passions. And though his life among the buccaneers was not free of the usual bigotry of the area, Ade found the prejudice to be more confrontational than restrictive. In 1715, misfortune struck a cruel blow when the ship Ade was aboard struck a shallow sandbar near the port of Havana. The buccaneers, mostly British at the time, tried desperately to free the trapped vessel, but after catching sight of an approaching Spanish galleon, abandoned the ship only to be torn apart by schools of circling bull sharks. Ade made peace with his fate and stood his ground. Taken to Havana for questioning and inspection, Spanish authorities eventually decided to send Adewale to Spain, where they felt he would make an excellent interpreter, owing to his fluent command of Spanish, English, and French. Some weeks later, they loaded him on one of the galleons that made up their perennial treasure convoy en route to Seville, thanks in a large part to a hurricane. However, that trip never took place. With the aid of a young Welsh pirate by the name of Edward Kinway, Ade escaped the bilboes that bound him. Freeing more prisoners as they went, Ade and Edward commandeers a brigantine and set sail just in time to beat the worst of the storm. When the hurricane passed, Ade was free once more. From that point forward, Ade sailed as the quartermaster to board Captain Edward's ship, the Jackdaw. Operating out of Nassau for a time, they grew wealthy off their spoils and lived the lives they had always dreamed. But Ade was a man who valued more democratic ideals of this pirate community far above the spoils they were acquiring while living it. As he saw Edward Kinway fall deeper and deeper into a spiral of selfish greed and pointless glory, he wondered if there wasn't a better alternative, a more noble cause he might adopt to suit his ideals. In 1720, these very ideals were put to the test when Captain Kinway sailed to a meeting with the notorious Bartholomew Roberts. Adewale never trusted Roberts and had hoped Edward might come to the same conclusion before it was too late. Unfortunately, Ade's instincts were correct. In Edward's absence, Robert's enormous crew attacked the Jackdaw, hoping to subdue her. Ade took command of the brig and sailed her and her crew to safety, regretting the loss of his captain, but confident he had made the right decision. And some months later, Ade resolved to meet with Tabai at the assassin's village in Tulum. There, he spoke at length with the old mentor and asked him many questions about their order. After hearing answers that pleased him greatly, Ade joined the order and then set about devising a scheme to locate his old captain. Months later, Adewale and the assassins got word that Edward Kinway had been languishing for many months in a prison in Port Royal. They learned, too, that Mary Reed and Anne Bonny had also been taken there. Ade and Tabai put in plan a motion to rescue them. After the escape and tragic success, Ade returned the Jackdaw intact to Captain Kinway and bade him visit the assassins as soon as he was able. Over 15 years, Adewale faithfully served the assassins, but in time he became increasingly troubled by memories of his past. In 1735, while performing a routine takedown of a Templar admiral off the coast of Saint Domingue, he was thrown overboard and washed ashore near Port-au-Prince. And that's where we are now.
The castle is with the Templar admiral on the lead ship, Captain. Once he gives the orders, it will be lost.
The parcel itself is less interesting than its intended recipient. Let's eliminate this errand, boy.
So we need to use this to surprise them, but it doesn't say hurt them.
When I became an assassin, I swore to leave piracy behind. But the old legends have simply agreed more than once.
Everything is for me.
Did that work?
And off.
I guess we'll look and see. It did. All right, so we fired it right off the back of the ship. And that seemed to have counted. We didn't hit them. So now let's take them out.
Coming! Loose all and trim sharp to the wind! All sail, she'll take it! Fire! Fire!
Take the shot! Ready to fire, Captain!
Fire!
That one went down. Easy enough.
An old pirate knows when
Alright, that got the 3 smaller ships out of the way.
reloading! Fire! Fire!
Board or sink the Templar Admiral ship.
Waiting order!
Let's board it. I think that's gonna be easiest. Well, sinking it will probably be easiest, but I think boarding it
Reef the
will
topsails and gallants!
reap us more rewards,
All
potentially.
sail! All sail! Man your sheets! Ah!
Kill the enemy crew, kill the captain, kill the officers. Alright, well, we got them. I don't think I'm going to get the captain from down here. Okay. Got the captain, now we just gotta get the crew. Go below. Well, that's something new. Kill the Templar Admiral.
Just keep your eye and be ready for anything. Stay below, sir! Sí, il est là!
Okay, well that was easy enough. Return to our ship.
Bastien Joseph, Port-au-Prince.
Just a second.
What business do Templars have there?
Captain! More French vessels at our tail!
Too many! We'll retreat through the storm!
We will be smashed ashore!
A worse fate awaits if we let this land in Templar hands!
Aye, Captain!
Just shouting at each other. Was the rain that strong? That strong? What we got? Maroons? What was that? Maroons were people from the West Indies, Central America, South America, and North America that escaped slavery and found formed and settled communities away from their oppressors. Although the African slaves were not the first to be treated so badly. The Taino tribes that first inhabited Santo Domingo were abused and bullied into submission by the Spanish. Refusing to work for them, the Taino people were first settled in the mountains and later made room for the fugitive slaves. Most of the slaves of Santo Domingo fled to the mountains to hide from their oppressors and start new lives, often based on subsistence, agriculture, and survival hunting. Some became warriors and fought for independence and the freedom of other slaves. Maroons were known to raise crops, attempt to scare off plantation owners and overseers, loot and conduct violent raids on nearby sugar and coffee plantations. But although these bands of Maroon warriors grew in size, they more often than not lacked the leadership to carry through a large-scale objective. Not surprisingly, the Code Noir still sided with masters. They were given a great deal of liberty in their retaliation methods. Plantation slaves were killed in an attempt to keep the Maroons at bay. Many of the attackers were slaughtered, and the death penalty was given out as a common form of punishment. Maroons in Santo Domingo were ultimately responsible for one of the few successful slave uprisings in history, and the only one to result in the founding of a free state, the Republic of Haiti, after the century of effort and more than one attempt. Note, Maroons are not to be confused with other black populations in Saint Domingue at the time. Freedmen, slaves who were freed legally through the emancipation or manumission, and gens de couleur, people of color who were born free or freed at birth.
Here it comes!
Captain!
Escape
There's no hope!
through the storm.
Too strong for us!
Rescue yourselves! I must stay with the ship!
No, I will stay with you!
Down for the drink!
They're closing in!
Captain! Fire!
A water spout
They're
there,
drawing ever closer!
and then a rogue way.
Here it comes!
They are gaining on us!
Press!
I go as fast as I can, and we're dodging whatnot.
Fire! On your mark, Captain! That's good, that's storm back on the hill!
What did he see off the ship? I didn't even see anything. Was it just a big wave? Ruh-roh.
Yeah, allez, mon les miso, Katalai.
Ubisoft presents.
Vendu! Sale truie! Non! Ça te coûtera une oreille!
Bah, John. Templar can wait. This woman must not suffer.
Alright, so we got kill the Overseer. This is the machete, which I think we read in our thing already. Yes. Oh, well, that's not fair.
Templar can wait. This woman must not suffer.
Arrête de courir, salope, ou je te tranche les deux oreilles.
Merci, bon Dieu. Désolé. I have nothing to offer but thanks.
Nothing else is needed. As a boy, I fled the same fate.
Why would you risk recapture?
Men of principle know the bigger risk is to turn away. I'm looking for Bastian Joseph. Do you know her?
Moi-même, pas qu'on elle. But any fine gentleman may lead you to her. Too late for this one. Find another in town.
The thanks is now mine. Do you have a place of refuge?
My family waits in the mountains. Demon, Gemon.
Que Dieu soit avec vous.
Okay, so what we got here? We got overseers. Plantation owners in the colonies were generally wealthy white Europeans. Ruling in absentia most of the time, they delegated their authority to overseers who controlled the day-to-day production of the plantation. The overseers were the people in charge of running the plantation's day-to-day activities, administering discipline, and often acting in place for the true owners. So what do we have that we're doing right now? Or I guess we're getting to a mission. There's a maroon store there. So we got a lot of stuff. We have Laga Nord. I'm not sure what all these are. Punishments. These are all slaves we can liberate, it looks like. Locate. Are we in a... I guess we are in a mission. And then we had something in here for Port-au-Prince. Slavery in Saint Domingue. Hispaniola was first home to the Taino tribes who suffered abuse, disease, and slavery after the first contact with the Spanish, ultimately reducing their population to an estimated 500 people by 1548. With native populations waning, colonies looked for other sources of manual labor to help supply Europe's growing demand for goods. They turned to Africa. In French-controlled Saint Domingue, conditions were punishing and birth rates for slaves were lower than death rates. Rather than improve conditions, the colonies simply increased at the rate at which it imported slaves. By the 18th century, Saint Domingue had become home to the largest slave society with the most brutal conditions in the world. And then Port-au-Prince. Today, Port-au-Prince is known as the capital and largest city in Haiti. But it took a long time to get there, changing hands as interest shifted and power changed hand. A bustling center of commerce in the 1730s, the current Port-au-Prince area was part of the grand scheme of Saint Domingue, which was then home to over 140 sugar plantations. The English did not trouble the area during this decade, and various nobles sought land grants in Port-au-Prince from the French monarchy. African slaves outnumbered the rest of the population by a large margin. From a maroon perspective, Port-au-Prince was significant as a trading location and the major center for slave labor. It would also become a strategic target in the slave revolution that built and starts and stops throughout the 18th century, ultimately culminating in the foundation of the Republic of Haiti. Alright, well, up here is some slaves being punished. It looks like we can rescue a couple slaves there.
Praise be to God you came along.
We can only put a stop to this by helping each other.
Thank you, mister. I I owe you my life.
It's not over yet.
Ne m'approchez pas de moi.
Thank you, Doctor. Healthy.
Madame Joseph's women are the finest outside Paris. Mark my words. Suzanne has eyes only for me.
Mark him, maybe?
Enjoy yourself, sir. And fear not, you'll meet no competition for me. My heart is too weak. Now, look at this beautiful car. What a
What was that? Pick up. Oh, okay.
won't find any bunch better.
The Code Noir. Hey, already cruising away on the next Assassin's Creed. At this rate, you'll be finished by the time Mirage comes out. We'll see, sure. The Code Noir, good morning, by the way, Mythic, was originally established in May of 1685 by King Louis XIV of France and enacted in March of 1687. It was a set of rules governing the rights and policing of slaves and remained in effect until 1789. Articles of the Code Noir made Catholicism mandatory in French colonies, provided guidelines for slave punishments, and also included a number of articles designed to limit the mistreatment of slaves. Masters were obligated to provide shelter, food, and clothing for their slaves and were not allowed to torture or mutilate their workers, only beat them. Slave families were not to be sold separately. Care was to be given to the sick and dying, and it was also stated that masters should only punish repeat offenders. But the Code Noir was never fully enforced, making way for all sorts of abuse. Most slave owners only adhered to the articles that benefited them. Some masters even became known for their cruelty and invented methods of torture, and the violations were waived and overlooked. This was especially the case in Santo Domingo, where the pressures to remain the world leader in sugar and coffee production was felt most strongly by the slaves who provided all the necessary labor. What kind of controller do you play with? It's a wired Xbox controller. Hi. Yeah, so we got detected because we got attacked by some jailers. So I need to be a little bit more observant, I guess. I would go rescue them, but now is not the time.
Goodly people of our city, please know that our governor is doing everything in his power to keep you safe in this troubling time. Now is not a time to turn on one another. Rather, we must band together in this time of strife. The more we work together, the faster we can
Alright, enter the brothel, it says. And then I think they popped up that said eavesdrop on the conversation.
You think me a traitor?
Slaves will be safer for it.
Monsieur Gouverneur, if they felt safe at the plantation, do you think they would rebel?
Of course. reflects their animal nature. Violence is the only currency that motivates them. Like coin. If you really want to protect your African friends, spread the word. Quiet them down. Otherwise,
You need not describe. I know what you do.
well, I could not raise a hand to hurt a fly. But the overseers have every right to disobey as they see fit.
Will not be necessary. I will deliver your message. The cost will be high.
We will both profit by.
Is there any other service you require? Gouverneur,
Oh, an old man like me. I dare say Guzan has exhausted me already.
then show yourself out.
All right, we need to approach Josephine here.
Madame Joseph. Expecting a package.
It. But not you. Where's l'Admiral? I see. And do you mean for me to meet the same fate? Look around. One threat, and these men will end you.
I bring no threat. Tell me, how do the Templars allow you to carry on like this?
I am only the messenger. But before you judge, remember, the Templars' coin, like any, will buy the freedom of men like you. I know this mark.
You know nothing.
You have the brand of a slave, the eloquence of a scholar, hands of a sailor, and an assassin's hood. Few weapons. I think the storm stranded you. What do you need? A ship? Shelter? These things can be had for the price of this parcel.
I need nothing I can't win for myself. But prove that what you promise is true. And perhaps something can be arranged.
Is this your game? Very well. Then you will do me a favor. Augustin Dufort is a very secretive man. First find his plantation contact and give him this message from the gouverneur. Augustin will give you all the proof you need. Repeat this password. Sili patoto krabla va manger.
Sili pa dodo, krabla va manger.
Pas mal. A convincing baritone. Now I suggest you leave before my admirers get suspicious.
Mm-hmm. Now this is a much shorter game, Mythic, so I think we'll cruise through this pretty fast. Alright, we have a database entry on Bastien Joseph. An intelligent, outwardly outgoing woman, Joseph had many acquaintances with few friends. Born free and raised by her mother, a prostitute at La Dama in Rose, Joseph made her first friends by selling glimpses of illicit acts to local children, but was shunned and labeled as morally corrupt as a young teenager. Choosing to avoid prostitution herself, Bastien learned to read, write, and manage financial affairs. In time, she became a brothel madam's indispensable right-hand woman. In this capacity, she bore witness to all the secret deal-making, political manipulation, and scandal among the brothel's patrons, and learned the true power of the Madame of La Dama and Rose. Engaged once, she ultimately avoided the altar, realizing it would deprive her of the freedom she had carefully cultivated for herself. She instead inherited the brothel following her mentor's death and took private pleasure in seeing the bullies and hypocrites of her childhood become her paying patrons once more. In the successful business the previous madam had built, Joseph saw potential in something more. Doubling her business, she then used the brothel to undertake 2 types of action on behalf of Maroons and enslaved Africans in Port-au-Prince. She used the proceeds to buy the freedom of slaves and used the confidential veil of the brothel itself in tandem with her control over the women who worked there to solicit political favors from powerful claimants, including Governor de Fayette and the scientist Louis Godin. In 1735, she met Adewale for the first time, and the two became uneasy partners in helping Augustin de Fort and the Maroon cause. It does seem that the friendship was developed between them, but it is unclear to what extent. Okay, we don't have another mission at the moment. Alright, so it looks like we can explore around now if we want to. And get some treasure. Collectibles. Also do some more of these side activities.
Good to hear. These beasts are in perfect physical condition.
Bien essayé. Mais tu es déjà mort. Refermez la noce, les gars.
I owe you much, stranger.
Yes, thank you.
You've
We have
enjoyed
other things to do.
Il est là. Emparez-vous de lui. Là. Il doit me faire des plaies.
Anybody and anybody that wants to fight me can. I mean, like I care. I want to deliberate them, but it won't let me. Because of this guy? I don't see any more overseers. Okay, whatever. We need to go over that way, it looks like. So let's get some other stuff. Yes, it's also based in the Caribbean, yes. Just on a smaller scale from what Black Flag was. So this takes place around the Haitian Revolution. So what can we buy here?
I have something new that you might be interested in.
So I think this takes place like 10 years after Black Flag ends. Sounds right. What kind of mic do you have? You've been trying to pick one out. I mean, I don't even remember. I bought this so long ago.
Je t'en prie.
I mean, I don't even see a logo on it right now or anything. Pseudo tack is what it says on the top. Ow. Stop that.
You're welcome.
Ow. I thought I was trying to put him off balance there. Come on.
My thanks, brave hero.
Trust in yourself.
I need to find a safe house. Don't let them fight.
Where do I have to transport him to? Like, this is a long way, it feels like.
He will kill me.
Catholic or apostolic religion. No other religious or spiritual practices will be tolerated. All offenders, including slaves and...
Oh, is this not where I have to transport them? I was going towards the mission spot. I wasn't even going the right direction. Whoops. I don't think there's a difficulty setting on this game. Like, I just go.
Effective way of dealing with these issues. Nurses will deliver fever tree bark to help ease symptoms.
Reste où tu es.
Don't let them fight me.
I am in your debt.
Okay,
Our
there
work
we
here
go.
is not finished. But I thank you.
Make your ancestors proud.
Says there's a new upgrade available now. I'd like to go see if we can go get this if we can. So we got a rope dart upgrade, which I think we can go just purchase now. Not entirely sure on that. Yeah, so we still have to go purchase it, but it doesn't cost us anything.
Thank you, Captain. Good.
Reste où tu es. Ton compte est bon.
You deserve nothing less.
So if we kill plantations here, are a good way to liberate many slaves simultaneously. You can find them near Port-au-Prince and the rest of the Caribbean. However, once a plantation has been successfully raided, it will become deserted until a new owner establishes himself in that location. Okay. Plantation life was a new thing in the database. Life on San Domingo plantations was hard. So this is a standalone game or DLC. Technically, it's both. It's a standalone DLC. Slaves were tortured, violated, starved, and made to live in shacks and exhausted all of their energy. Everywhere on plantations, domestic slaves catered to every need their masters and overseers and worked when they were told, despite what the Cold War dictated. You couldn't find it on eBay for Xbox. Yeah, I think on Xbox you have to download it through Black Flag 4, so it would be a DLC. I mean, it's technically a DLC. I mean, I got it on Steam as a standalone DLC, but you don't have to own Black Flag in order to play it. The lash, both its image and its sounds, perhaps the most common memory of plantation life. Lashing was a very common form of punishment used to force and threaten slaves from doing work. Into doing work. They were also cajoled with food, clothing, and rest as incentives, and were sometimes given the freedom to raise their own livestock and crops. That being said, the conditions on sugar plantations were brutal. During the 8-month sugar harvest, slaves were expected to work long hours until all the work was done, including on Sundays, which the Code Noir specifically set aside as a day of rest. Slaves collapsed from exhaustion regularly and sometimes got into horrible accidents with the primitive machinery used on the plantations. Slaves were considered to be pieces of property and were generally labeled as unskilled, though many slaves were skilled masons, metal workers, coopers, cooks, seamstresses, and nurses. Personal violations were also used as a method of control. Slaves were often relocated to other plantations without warning and were separated from friends, family members, and children. Many slaves were also... word I won't say on stream. None of this stopped the enslaved people from starting families and having social lives at the plantations. Friends and family units were created in the barracks, and children were reared and taught the dangers and risks of harsh life they were brought into. These barracks were the focal point for developing slave communities. Religion also played a major part. Faith offered the slaves a form of escapism from their harsh lives and masters. Sometimes religious scripture was used as a code among its followers, sparking more hope and sometimes rebellion. As dark as these times were, there was still a spark of hope among the people. Alright, so let's see what we can do about this.
Voilà, je vais t'arracher le foie.
Overseers now fear rebellion and will attack slaves to prevent a riot. Really? So I need to try to do this as secretively as possible.
Va chercher les escaliers.
Hé, attends un moment, tu veux? Allez vite! Tranquille, cherche à pied.
Halt! T'as déjà un pied dans la tombe.
Qu'est-ce qu'il est, cafard?
No. No.
Veux tous nous faire tuer?
Je dois partir, tout de suite.
Arrête-toi!
Run and find a place to hide.
Alright, well that's 38 slaves. So that's pretty nice. I mean, our target is 400 is the max we need to, you know, rescue. Do I need to go up, like, the blade here? Just to get down low enough? Well, okay. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to use all this money for I'm getting from these chests, though. Plantation mansions in our database here. Multi-story buildings with high ceilings, large windows, marble or wood flooring with a second floor balcony for viewing one's vast property. Plantation mansions were a symbol of the plantation owner's wealth and success. The mansion was generally placed in the most central location of the plantation, so it would be visible and recognizable from a distance. Notes: they were usually a combination of Greek, French Creole, and Caribbean architecture. Notes: all built with enslaved labor as to emphasize the inequality. I don't know if we can get up to that viewpoint from this direction, but we'll try. Looks like there might be a path there. Maybe. Maybe not. Slave barracks. Slave barracks were a common form of slave housing used in the 17th century. They were cheap and required little upkeep, which was the ideal for plantation owners. Barracks were often constructed to look like wooden huts. Beds and furniture were not always allowed, forcing slaves to make makeshift beds out of planks or sleep on the floor. Slaves often created their own extended families, as so many were crammed into tiny living spaces, which played a role in strengthening bonds. Slaves were sometimes allowed to plant and harvest their own small cash crops just outside the barracks, as they were often supplied enough food to survive. These gardens saved many slaves from starvation. Looks like there's a road here, but it's not going in the direction I want to. It looks like I need to take like this road out of town.
You too must help your brothers and sisters.
Alright, we got more smoke bombs.
You are wise. My thanks and good luck.
I don't know if I'm gonna get this guy. I mean, that chase is just ridiculous. And it's not that I want, you know, him to be killed, but if they're outrunning me, I'm not going to exert myself. Yeah, at this rate, we are going to have a ton of money by the time we're done here just in Port-au-Prince. Alright, well, we're already 22% total sync up with the entire game after one episode. We've already got 70 out of 400 released. And since we have a machete, oh, I think we just had the base machete. Alright, but this is where we're going to end this first episode for today. We do hope you all enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you next time with more Assassin's Creed.